Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm Daniela and today I'll be reviewing another thread for bead crochet. This time it's S-lon with a thickness of 0.4 millimeters. This thread is manufactured by Beadsmiths, and when I look at the official website, they describe it as a fine thread suitable for kumihimo, bead crochet and bead weaving with small beads. So let's take a closer look. What I like about this thread is that it is sturdy, almost resembling a thin rope. When you crochet with this type of thread, you can see the individual loops beautifully. It's nice, but it has a relatively glossy surface, which I believe will provide some slip. I would rather avoid that. It also appears to be quite thick, but I mentioned in my previous review on another thread that the stated diameters in millimeters are not very reliable. I think that this thread may not work well with size 11 beads, but I will give it a try. So I've threaded approximately 2.5 meters onto my needle for a bracelet, and as you can see, the thread is fraying quite a bit. And please don't pay too much attention to my needle, they all end up like this after some use. But that fraying isn't a big issue, we can trim that and start crocheting. I've crocheted a small section, and as I expected, it doesn't work well with size 11 beads. The thread slips a bit, but it's manageable because it's sturdy and the loops form nicely. However, you can see quite a bit of thread between the beads, which I don't like. So let's give it another shot, this time not with 11 beads, but with 8 beads. I have some Czech Preciosa beads in size 8 here. I will thread a few beads onto the thread. I won't overdo it just in case the thread doesn't work well even with larger beads. I've threaded a small section and let's start crocheting. I'm using my trusty 0.5mm crochet hook, which I use for almost everything. I will start with a magic ring, but I won't go into the detailed technique here, I have other videos for that, and you can see a link to a basic bead crochet tutorial up here if you are interested. I will crochet a few rows without beads and then add beads. Let's try 10 beads in a row. As you can see, I'm having a bit of trouble with the hook snagging. The thread separates into individual strands and the hooks sometimes get caught. I have found this happening more often with this thread than I originally anticipated. So, as you can see, it's not a disaster with size 8 beads, but I don't know. To my taste, there's still too much thread visible between the beads. It's doable for sure, but if I had a choice, this thread wouldn't be my first pick. However, it can work with a size 8 beads. Please let me know in the comments what you think. So, in summary, what I like and dislike about this thread. I like that it's sturdy and the bead crochet rope holds its shape well. The individual loops are well defined. And I don't like that it's slippery and the beads tend to slide down the thread, which slows me down. It can fray and the hook sometimes catches on the thread instead of the loop. And it's too thick for my preference, even for 8 beads. Regarding the price, I have a neutral opinion since I don't consider this thread exceptionally cheap or expensive. I think it's in the middle. This spool contains 107 meters and cost me $6.39, which works out to be about 6 cents per meter. I think that's reasonable. In conclusion, it's not terrible, but I believe there are better threads out there for bead crochet. And I'd like to add that I initially bought S-lon with a thickness of 0.5 millimeters for testing, but it's essentially the same thread, just thicker. So it would be likely work even less well for bead crochet, and I won't be trying that. However, I think both threads would be great for kumihimo. If any of you have tried it, please let me know down in the comments. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Happy beading and bye!